Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Catholic Education Foundation podcast number 11, the Toy Bowl edition. Super excited about this one. Our first guest is Mr. Thom Wachtel. Thom is the CSAA football director. He started in 1996 under Jim Frame, a former football coach at Holy Cross. And then Mr. Rich Lecklider. Rich is the president of the Catholic Education Foundation of Louisville, now in his 9th year. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
Fantastic. Thank you.
Excited to be here.
Well, we're also going to have Mr. Jody Demling here in a little bit. We're going to talk girls flag football as well, but we're going to start with the boys here. Thom, I'm going to start with you. You've obviously been a staple of Catholic school sports for since 1996, even before then, obviously. Tell us a bit about your family and your ties to Catholic education.
Well, I started coaching in 1974 at St. Lawrence. Okay, and
at St. Lawrence.
At St. Lawrence.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up at St. Lawrence.
Gotcha.
But my parents were founding members of St. Lawrence, so we've always been a South End family. But I had two daughters, wife and two daughters, and my oldest daughter went to Holy Cross, and my youngest daughter went to Assumption. They're both volleyball players, and youngest played at University of Louisville volleyball.
Little D1 action.
Little D1.
Yay.
Well,
How about that?
Yeah, my other daughter played at Brescia University in Owensboro. So, but they were all, and of course, Brescia, Catholic university there in Owensboro. So,
Now, did your kids all went to Catholic schools?
All went to Catholic schools, yes.
So you've been just entrenched in this Catholic education system forever, huh?
And my daughter now her three children, they belong to Holy Spirit Catholic Church. So.
Oh, there you go. Well, and you got a brand new grandbaby. Congratulations.
In Marietta, Georgia. Yeah, I was all. We're about a week late on this because.
Yeah, well, all good. Well, so Thom, listen. So CSAA football has a deep tradition, right? The Toy Bowl is a very tradition-heavy event, and I know the Catholic Education Foundation, we'll let Rich speak to this a little bit, but they are ecstatic to be the main sponsor this year. They're also the main sponsor for our basketball championships. Give us a little bit of the tradition of the Toy Bowl.
Tradition is there. 1949, it started with Mr. Carl Schmidt started it, and just numerous kids have gone through this thing. The Brom family, the Nord family, you name all these
the
guys.
Beaner family,
I'm sure Will Wolford probably played in a Toy Bowl at some point.
St. Agnes,
he did.
Yeah. I don't know if he made a Toy Bowl, though, because we talked about it, and he said, I don't think
he never actually got there. Okay.
Don't believe so. But it's in 1966, we started the 5th and 6th grade Toy Bowl.
Right.
Okay. And I hate to say it, but I played in the first one.
Oh,
in 1966. Okay. And just to give you a little tradition about it was, I still remember it, 65 years old, but I remember us getting on Dixie Highway in a Mother's Cookies panel truck, and they took the panels out, and we jumped in the back, and we drove from Dixie Highway to Trinity High School.
How awesome was that?
Oh, it was great. And I still remember it. And the tradition is, and like I said, I've coached high school football, and it's like this at St. Extra Trinity. You talk to these kids there, and that's all they argue about.
Sure.
Oh, I was at Holy Trinity. Oh, I was Holy Spirit. I was, that's all they want to talk about is their Toy Bowl days. So
yeah, that's awesome. It really is.
Now, Rich, did any of your kids play football?
My son John played in the 8th grade at Holy Spirit, and they actually won the Toy Bowl that year. So
waited to the 8th grade to start?
Great timing.
Okay, well, he knew when to jump in, right?
Yeah.
Well, and you're right. We talk about it all the time of how you kind of reminisce among your friends. I wasn't much of a football player. I was more of a golfer growing up, but I did have an interception in my 7th grade, and I will remember it to the day I die. It was a cool moment.
Yeah, of course, I get reminded, too. My son-in-law, who went to Holy Spirit, and I played at St. Lawrence, and he beat me in a Toy Bowl when I was coaching.
There you go.
And, of course, I wouldn't know that until, 40 years later when he has to tell me, oh, I remember, we beat you.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's pretty cool. Rich, can you tell us how the partnership with the CSAA came about and why it's important for the Catholic Education Foundation?
Yeah, look, I think Catholic schools are about mind, body, and soul. It's about all the whole person. That's really, really important. And I think some people kind of overlook that when they think about Catholic education. And at the Catholic Education Foundation, we're all about that. And, we got together with Rick a few months ago and tried to figure out how we could tie together or partner together better with CSAA because we love what they do for all of our kids. And what we kind of came up with is this really cool partnership. We're going to launch it this year, whereby the foundation's going to be the lead sponsor for the Toy Bowl, first time ever. And then, as you said before, we're going to also be the lead sponsor for the basketball championships. And the message, I think the overriding message is how much we have in common between the two of us, right? At CSAA, there's this really cool slogan, everybody plays.
Yeah, right.
And at CEF, kind of a similar message. The answer is yes, if you want your kid to go to a Catholic school. And the money that we're putting forth for the sponsorship, which in aggregate is $50,000, essentially is important to CSAA because that lowers the cost that families have to pay to play sports.
Right.
So there's another angle here to help families, not just in academics, but in sports as well while they're in Catholic schools, and we couldn't be more proud to do it.
Well, because of that sponsorship, the CSAA didn't have to raise their franchise fees this year. And the franchise fees have been raising kind of, not necessarily every year. I know that's something that Rick always kind of wanted to make sure he kept those fees as low as possible. But inflation, you had to raise them, right? But we were able to keep them at the same price, and it allows these kids that the Catholic Education Foundation's put into these schools, it allows them to have that opportunity. Because let me tell you something, playing sports at Catholic schools is a big piece of that. You know, and you've got all kinds of opportunities now. We're going to get into how the girls have more opportunities a little bit later. Archery is now part of the CSAA system. There's just so many things for kids to do, and to me, it's important to try to get involved in something.
Look, I think, and we shouldn't be shy about it either. We don't have to be braggarts, but look, Catholic schools and Catholic school sports in this community are the best.
Yeah,
and it's okay to talk about that and kind of show that to the community. But it's also important to include everybody that wants to be part of that journey, whether they can afford it or not. That's the beauty of it. Absolutely.
So, Thom, I have a 7th grade son, and he's killing me about wanting to play tackle football. But Mom had always been like, nope, not happening. With head injuries being such a concern. Now, hang on. So that's my question here. What is CSAA doing to make football safe?
Well, any chance I get or opportunity to get it in front of parents, I'll tell them football today is safer than it's ever been. We've got better equipment. We've got better training for our coaches. Every one of our coaches has to go through USA football, which started out as heads-up football. It taught them how to get your head out of the football to prevent concussions, okay? The rules have changed. We don't lead with our head. We try to teach them, we're coming up and everything. Rules have changed. The officials have changed how they call things, and
equipment's gotten better, as you mentioned.
Equipment is a lot better. I mean, I can remember I could grab my helmet and turn it all the way around when I was playing. Maybe that's might have been my problem, but it's safer now than it's ever been.
Sure.
And okay, I'm a football person. It's a great sport, and the Catholic schools, we do a great job. We don't have a coach on staff that's paid, out of all these coaches. Which is the only people that make money on us is the officials. And so we have all these volunteers. It's amazing.
Well, Thom, that's really important, okay, when people think about this huge organization called CSAA across 39 schools, which is big in of itself. It's volunteer-driven, period.
Oh, yeah.
And I just think it's another important message for the community to know how many people get behind this, whether that's coaches, parents, or whatever, to really make it as successful as it is. You become part of the community. And Thom knows he's been doing this as a volunteer since 1996. So
the thing is that you look, most of our teams have anywhere from 8 to 10 coaches. And that's 10 volunteers.
That's a bunch.
That's a bunch. And that's just one team. And then you've got the team mom, and you've got, this and that.
Yeah.
That's a lot of volunteerism. And that's what makes it fantastic.
And you learn a lot of life lessons in that situation too. I mean, because you're helping, as a coach, you're helping mold these young men and women into future citizens of Louisville.
What got me into coaching was I had a basketball coach, Keith Wolf, where I would see him. He was a lecturer on Sunday, and he coached me in basketball. And it just kind of, I want to get involved like this.
Well, it ties everything together, right?
It does.
So, Thom, we had a recent rule change. So we went to 100-yard fields here recently for the 8th graders. How'd that come about?
It came about is that we had to involve a little bit because the kids are getting bigger, stronger, faster. And we were on a 70-yard field and narrow. It wasn't the length as much as we needed to go wider, to create a new game. We had to open it up a little bit, throwing the ball and sweeps and stuff like that. But I'm a ex-high school coach. When we got a Catholic school kid, he can run through the middle of the line, and we could block the middle of the line.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of got away with it now that we sweep right, sweep left, sweep right, sweep left. But I'm proud of our coaches. We still can run the inside gaps because we have good coaching.
I want to talk a little bit about the inside gaps here in a second, but I have one more question first. So I have friends who have kids in the Optimus leagues because they want to be the quarterback. They want to run the ball, and they're too heavy to run it in the CSAA system. Talk to us about the weight limits and then how CSAA stacks up to some of the other leagues.
Well, we do have a weight limit. Now, our 7th and 8th grade, it's 150 pounds. Well, that's a pretty big kid, 150 pounds. If we go any higher,
that's a pretty big kid.
That is a big kid. If we go any higher, we've got some 180, 190-pound kids. If we give them the ball, we're going to knock the little kid out of the game altogether.
Yeah.
And that's not what we're here for.
Yeah.
We're here to get everybody involved.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to play.
Yeah.
If we raise the weight limit so much more, we're going to lose the little kid.
Well, you're probably going to have more injuries too, Thom.
More injuries. Now, the Optimus leagues, they've gone to no weight limit on that day. And Rick and the board and all that, every year it's the same thing. Raise the weight limit, raise the weight limit. My son, no. Sorry.
Well, speaking of that, Rich, why is it important for kids to get involved in Catholic schools and in Catholic school sports in particular?
Look, I think you learn, as you said before, a ton of life lessons being part of a team. I can't think of a more ultimate team game than football, right, for example. And at an early age, it's really important in the classroom and on the field to realize I'm not the most important person here, that I've got my teammates and my classmates to think about as well. And look, our youngest son, Andrew, played football for 4 years at Holy Spirit, had a great run at it. And when he went to St. Axe, he ended up playing basketball, not football, but what he learned about team really molded him, I think, into the kid he is today. I really believe that.
Makes a lot of sense. It really does. So talking about a little bit of those gaps we talked about earlier, it seems to me, and this is just kind of an observation I've made, but when you look at some of these high school teams, especially at St. X Trinity, DeSales, Holy Cross, the linemen all seem to come from the CSAA system, right? So that's something that we do a pretty good job of fostering these linemen as they kind of get older, right?
It's true. And it starts where we are. It starts in the 3rd and 4th grade where they teach it. And this heads up USA football that we go through, we teach a technique. And we tell these coaches, this is how you need to teach it. Okay? And not only in tackling to get your head out, in blocking you need to get your head out too. It's not just tackling. Well, so these guys are starting at the 3rd grade and teaching this 3rd grader the correct technique.
Yeah, on how to block.
And then he gets all the way to 8th grade. He should be pretty good.
So you're not getting that on the 7-on-7 leagues and some of the other leagues, right?
You're not. And you're not. And at times I put some of our coaches up against, in the CSAA. I've got some staffs out there that I'd put them up against a lot of these high school coaches.
Sure.
And the reason I stay in it is because football coaches are unique. They love the game. These guys put in 6 days a week at least.
A lot of hours.
Well, it's a passion.
A ton of hours.
It's a passion. So, Thom, there seems to be a referee shortage in all youth sports. How's that affected CSAA football?
It's affected us here recently. Carl Schmidt, who started the CSAA, also started the KFOA, is the Kentucky Football.
I didn't realize that.
Yes, he started it, and his son started the college portion of it. The OVC and stuff like that. But that's Carl started it all, and that's where we kind of migrated from getting those guys all the time. They are short.
Yeah.
They are very short. They only had 40 guys to call our games on Sundays. and we need a few more than 40.
Yeah.
So
it makes sense. Well, I mean, how do you encourage people to get involved in that? I mean,
well, Jody will talk. You can talk to Jody, but the KFOA could not handle our girls this year. They told us we
interesting.
Can't do it.
Okay.
And so through the guidance of Rick and Jody, and we did recruit a KFOA official to take over and head our new girls program.
Sure.
And that we've got all these new officials, and we've got them out there, and maybe these people will go over to the tackle side and tackle it. So, but the officials, the shortage is really hurting us, and of course they're saying that it's, I hate to say it, but it's parents, yelling at them, and
that's part of it.
And these young officials, they're thin-skinned.
Yeah.
The old gray hair guys, they just
they didn't hear you. Yeah, they didn't hear you.
Yeah.
Well, Thom, as we get ready to segue over to Jody, I know you were instrumental on the girls' football side as well. How'd that come about, and why do you think it's important that CSAA now hosts girls' flag football?
Well, I think we need to regulate it all the way, because we do have volleyball going on, and we don't want it to get to where they're practicing 4 days a week and everything, and they're playing volleyball. That's the good thing about CSAA too. I hate to say it, I'm going to keep going, but the Optimist League, those guys will start the 1st of July. We don't start, we start a little cooler.
That's a good point. That's right. They do start earlier.
They do start a lot earlier, and they also practice 5 to 6 days a week. And then they play 1 day a week.
Mm-hmm.
And they practice 2 to 3 hours. We don't do that. We give you an hour and a half, 3 days a week.
Right.
8th graders will give a little bit more. We try to limit it because, hey, we're in school.
Sure.
we got school to do. And
sure. Well, and CSAA has a thing called OTAs, which is organized team activities, and you can't go over a certain amount, and there's rules to that.
Yeah. In 3rd and 4th grades, we only go 3 days a week, and we give them an hour and a half to practice, and it's really short. And every year it's the same thing. We need more time. We need more time. No, you don't. Everybody has the same attitude.
Everything has its balance in Catholic schools, right? Because again, mind, body, and soul.
That's right.
Okay? It's about all of that.
That's right.
And that's just another really good example, I think, of that.
So, Thom, we want to congratulate you for all your years of service and for what you've done for this Catholic community, and obviously football in general, but just, all these young men that have been able to kind of come through the CSAA football system. Congratulations, and thank you for everything you've done.
Well, thank you, but I get to do something I enjoy. I enjoy it. Thank my wife, congratulate her for letting me play all these years, because it's what I enjoy, and I enjoy CSA football. And that's what I've done for 20 plus years. So
that's great.
Well, we're very proud of you, Thom, over on our side of the shop as well. And that's a huge kind of lifelong commitment, career commitment that you've made to sports in this community. And as we said before, it really matters. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you all.
Thanks, Thom.
Thank you all for having me.
Absolutely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now joining us is Mr. Jody Demling. Jody is the publisher of the Cardinal Authority. He's a play-by-play announcer for the ACC Network. He's a radio host for the Louisville Radio Network. He's the director of the Sports Ministry Program at Holy Trinity. And you are the CSAA Girls Flag Football Director.
That's the best one, right?
That is the best one. That's one that pays the most, right?
Exactly.
So, again, another volunteer gig that obviously looks like you have a ton of time there to do that, Jody. But thank you for taking that on. And listen, you've been entrenched in Catholic faith, right? In Catholic schools. This is your life. Give us a little bit about your family and tell us about your background.
And it is my livelihood. It is my life. Actually, before I was even at Holy Spirit, back when I graduated from Holy Spirit, but before I was even at Holy Spirit, I was just involved in Catholic schools. I mean, I have been my entire life. We actually, my mom and dad moved the day of the tornado when I was 2 in 1973. That day, they moved into the house right there at Trinity on school property. And my dad was a facility director there for almost 40 years before he passed away. My mom still lives there. She was the business manager from about 1980, I guess 85 or 86 when I was in school, until just right before COVID when she retired, but she still runs a concession stands.
Wow.
It's been my livelihood. And, I grew up at Holy Spirit, and I joke, Rich, when I did when I was last year, got the Catholic Education Foundation Award, I went over the grade schools that we've been involved with, someone in our family, and I think it was I think it was 14, and I can't remember now who I left out. I left one out. So I think it's 14 or 15 different grade schools that we've been a part of somewhat, some way, somehow of our families. And now I have two nieces that go to John Paul, and I said that added another one. You know what I mean?
That?
So,
awesome.
So it added another school into the mix. But it's been fun. It's my life. It's my livelihood. I went to Holy Spirit. My kids both went to Holy Trinity. I went to Trinity. My wife went to St. Edward and to Sacred Heart. My daughter goes to Assumption. My son went to Trinity. I have a sister that went to Assumption, a sister that went to Mercy. We've got it all covered.
The Demling family is entrenched there, Rich.
They're everywhere.
They are. Well, and I tell you can't go to a Trinity game without seeing your son involved now. He's over there.
He loves it. He's actually been working for my mom. He's in college and making some extra money, and has been working for my mom and doing some things and all that kind of good stuff. So, yeah, he loves it as well. And maybe he can be the girls' flag football coordinator.
Hey, there you go.
Coordinator with me. I'll recruit him for Rick so we can have some more help.
Pass the torch. Well, speaking of girls' flag football, it's in its second year at the CSAA. How did it all come about?
So it's a great look. It's fun. First of all, the girls love
it. The girls love it.
You don't understand until you actually go to a game.
Yeah.
The girls really get into it. So there have been a couple of leagues around town. St. Bernard had a really good one. St. Margaret Mary, we kind of switched back and forth. And for me, having Holy Trinity, I always had girls that would bug me like, Mr. Demling, we want to play football. We want to play. And I'm like, you want to play? Okay. And I'm like, no, we want to play flag football. So I did some research and found out that Margaret Mary was having a league, Bernard had a league. We were in the Bernard League one year. They mixed together, so we were back and forth kind of thing.
Right.
And over time, I know several other people, but not just me, had said to Rick, like, hey, maybe this should be something, the CSAA. Well, I never really thought that it would because volleyball. You know what I mean?
Sure. It's the same time as volleyball.
This time of year is for volleyball, and it's
and volleyball's huge with the CSAA.
Right, and it's difficult to have multiple sports for anybody. We know how that is. Everybody plays multiple sports, but it's club here and club and that kind of stuff. Well, when Rick started talking about it, I was like, it's a great idea to do this. And the more you talk to other people, the more you realize that there was interest from other schools. There was not just the 6 or 7 schools. I can't remember how many schools were playing in that league, but not just the 6 or 7 schools were playing in that league. But there was definitely interest in it. And I just know from our standpoint at Holy Trinity, the girls are really into it. They love it. I've gotten so much grief over the first time we sent it out to Holy Trinity. They called it Powder Puff because that's what the league was called. Back when St. Bernard and Margaret Mary were running it, and I had a couple girls who were like, Mr. Demling, it's flag football. It's not Powder Puff. I'm like, well, that you're right. You're totally right. And they wanted a banner. They won one of the years, and they wanted a banner. I mean, it's just like it was just like a normal sport. Now, last year when the CSAA when it became an official sport, I think, and I don't want to put words into Rick's mouth, but I do believe that the numbers were a lot greater than what anybody would have ever thought they would be, and they're up this year. So it's crazy.
Rick would tell you that it's been a game changer for the CSAA. It absolutely has been. It's been, not only has it been a financial windfall for them, but it's also been, the CSAA is on the cutting edge of girls' athletics and girls' sports. It just always has been. And I think this is another testament to that, offering the sport.
Well, and I think for one thing, in talking, when you were talking with Thom and talking about the boys and going to Optimus League and things like that, that's why the CSAA is so strong with girls' sports, because you don't see that. The best volleyball players play.
They play for their school.
Okay? You've got the best basketball players, they play for their school.
Yeah.
The best field hockey players, they play for their school.
100%.
Guess what? The best volleyball, basketball, field hockey, and soccer players, they all play girls' flag football.
Yeah.
And that's what's crazy about it. You can go watch this weekend the tournament games or whenever they are, whatever game you want to go watch. If you go watch a 7th and 8th grade girls game, and the 5th and 6th grade, the girls might not have their sports. You know what I mean? They still might be finding out their best sports. But, Rich, if you go watch a 7th and 8th grade girls game, there's going to be a girl, and somebody's going to say, oh, no, she's going to Sacred Heart to play field hockey. No, she's going to Assumption to play soccer. She's going to Mercy to play basketball. All those girls that play all those sports are out there playing girls' flag football, and it's so much fun to watch.
That's awesome. It really is.
Have you been to the pink-white game?
Yes.
It's an unbelievable event that Assumption plays Sacred Heart, and they do it in a flag football setting. St. Nick's and Trinity have these dance teams they bring in. It's phenomenal.
Well, I've already warned. I was warning Lisa and Donna and the folks at the two schools. I'm like, look, the freshman class this year had girls flag football for the first time.
It's going to be different.
When they become seniors, you're going to have
be a better game.
Triple the amount of girls that
want to play and have experience.
It's great. Now, to go back one question about the becoming, there are now 16 states, I believe. The last time I checked, 16, it might be 17 states that do flag football in high school.
Okay.
So
it's in a high school sport.
So this is something that while here it's 2 years old and new and just kind of growing, this is something that around the country that it is out there. It's kind of cutting edge thing for girls sports that they want. The girls love it, and the other thing is the dads love it.
Right,
the dads. It's easy to get a girls flag football coach because it's all the football dads that have girls.
Maybe didn't have a boy, and for sure. Rich, how is our Catholic community empowering young women?
It's a great question. I think, and this is a really good example.
It is.
And I'm glad we're talking about this today. It's just one example of how we've taken another opportunity for young women to do something they'd never done before. Maybe they never thought about doing it. And now they're into it. It's going crazy. It's growing. And if you look at our schools, same thing is happening. If you look at particularly our middle school classes, more so our high school classes at some of the high schools, there's this really awesome emphasis on things like technology, engineering, math, science, STEM, STEAM, whatever you want to call it. That is exploding in our girls' schools. So the opportunities in those fields for women is really expanding, and our schools are really stepping up, probably in the last 5 to 7 years, to expand the offerings of courses within the high schools, particularly around those professions. So what we're sending these young women out into the world. Next thing you know, they're engineers at General Electric. They're mathematicians, they're scientists at a drug company, whatever. I mean, it's really taken off inside of our grade schools and high schools.
And STEM's that buzzword these days, right? And that's something that the Catholic schools in our area have really, really embraced. And even some of our grade schools are really starting to embrace kind of the STEM side of things, of education.
Yeah, because 10 to 15 years ago, young women didn't have a lot of opportunities in those fields. They did a lot of nursing. Accounting's grown in a very big way for women as a profession. But now the engineering side of things rearing its head, and it's really taken off.
Jody, so you mentioned high school. Is there college opportunities to play flag football for girls?
Not that I know of, but I will say this. So if you look at college women's lacrosse teams, college women rowing teams.
Okay.
You look at the rowing teams across the country, schools that have added rowing.
Right.
Are getting players who in high school somewhere played volleyball, maybe wasn't good enough to play college volleyball.
Sure.
They ran cross country is a big one because of the endurance and the stamina. And I think that's the thing now. I know of one story only because I know a kid that played that was a rowing kid at this school, but there was one that she did play field hockey and flag football in high school out west, and so I think that you're going to see that more and more as we get. There's so many girls scholarships out there. There's so many scholarships available to girls and athletes that they don't even understand.
Right.
And I think that you don't have to be a rower. You don't have to be, but if you're an athlete, they will take a chance on you because they've got to fill these scholarships. They've got to get.
You got to build a team.
Numbers. They've got to build a team.
Sure. Well, that makes a ton of sense. Listen, Jody, as a previous Salute to Catholic Schools honoree, as you just mentioned, did you ever think that the Catholic Education Foundation could grant a scholarship to every single qualifying family for the past 8 years? How awesome is that?
It's pretty amazing. I know, very fortunate to have my life to have been in the Catholic education here in this city, to be involved and entrenched deeply in that. And also very fortunate to know and see families that have taken advantage of their opportunity. Maybe they weren't a family that could afford to go to such and name a school, whatever school, being a middle school, elementary school, or a high school. But because of the Catholic Education Foundation, because of that, they've taken advantage and they've gotten the opportunity to do that. It's really amazing. It's truly something very special, and something that, as it continues to, we're in the middle of my life. I'm in the middle of my life, and as I get older, I think I appreciate it more than I maybe did back when I was, in my 20s or even in high school. And it's pretty amazing. It's pretty phenomenal to think that everybody. I mean, you would think that they're not going to be able to do that. Well, they do, and each and every year, Rich and his team, they continue to do better and more, and that's the crazy part. And I think we see numbers up. I can only talk from being at Holy Trinity and knowing that our numbers are up at Holy Trinity, being involved with like football with the CSAA and seeing the numbers are up. I know, football.
Thom mentioned football was up.
Up. It's only going to get bigger and better as we go on, and that's because of this.
Yeah, totally agree. Rich, what would you say to that?
Yeah, I think last fall, I think our Catholic grade schools enrollment grew 6%. This fall, we're up almost 3% over the previous year. So
fantastic.
Kind of a franchise that was either flat to down for maybe decades is really starting to come alive, not just because of the Catholic Education Foundation, but more importantly, the product. All right.
The product.
What are we producing out of Catholic schools? What do you see?
Right.
And more people in our community, and maybe COVID helped us in that regard, I don't know. But more and more people are seeing that Catholic schools are definitely worth the investment.
Well, Rich, I don't want to speak for you, but I know that not only are we super excited to sponsor the Toy Bowl, but we're super excited to sponsor the Girls Toy Bowl as well.
Yeah, listen, this is a great opportunity once again to bring both organizations together under a really common message and a common goal for families. And we can't wait to sponsor both of these events. It's awesome. Thank you.
Jody, thank you for joining us. I mean, and thank you for everything you do. I mean, obviously, you're a well-known kind of personality in our area, but what you do for Catholic school sports is fantastic. So thank you for everything you do.
It is fun. Do you mind if I throw one shout out? Thom mentioned about the referees.
Yeah,
and I was going
to ask you about that.
We were 3 days from thinking we might have 38 teams we have 38 teams this year. We were thinking we might have 38 teams.
30. Do you hear that, Rich? 38 teams of girls flag football.
But not
out of 39 schools.
Yeah.
But not have a season because we didn't have the officials.
Right. Because the officials that do the boys didn't have the manpower to take it on.
The manpower to take it on. So the KFOA they backed out of that. They were like, we just can't do it. So, thanks to Rick and to Thom, and we kind of scrambled at the last minute, and Woody Perry, who is a KFOA official, he stepped up and said, I'll kind of help coordinate it.
Okay.
And we've got, it's great. It's there's a few high school kids, there's some older people, there's females, there's males, there's young boys, there's young girls. It's a mix, and it's been a great year.
That's awesome.
It really has been. Girls flag football's got a lot of rules.
Yeah,
there's a little different,
right.
But they've learned the rules. They understand it. And in every sport, you're going to have coaches that complain. You're going to have issues. You're going to have things like that. And we've had that, but it's been nothing major. Knock on wood. And it's been awesome. It's been a great year, and I'm so excited. I think if anybody goes and checks out one of the girls flag games, you're going to be like, wow, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was blown away. I mean, we used to do a fundraiser at Ascension where the 7th grade would play the 8th grade, and the whole community would come out. It was just fantastic. And the girls love it. It's just fun.
Yep,
it really is.
But we wouldn't have it without those officials. It's been awesome for them to step up, and I think that's going to grow even more next year too. Give them opportunities. And it's a lot of high school. There's a lot of high school kids that are involved in helping us out there.
Yeah, and those are referees of the future for maybe decades, right? So
sure,
you're
absolutely.
building inventory of really qualified folks. And again, Jody, thank you so much for launching this thing and for making this thing go in 38 schools. That's fantastic.
Well, we know that the Catholic Education Foundation is extremely excited for this partnership with the CSAA. And we have our slogan, Rich. So at the Catholic Education Foundation.
The answer is yes.
Gentlemen, thank you guys so much. We appreciate your time. And thank you for listening to the Catholic Education Foundation podcast number 11. We'll be back next month with another engaging guest.